Welcome students, welcome to Virus Academy. Today we are going to discuss two important concepts, that is arithmetical mean as well as range concepts in the transfer pricing chapter. Transfer pricing chapter itself is very important. It actually carries 10 to 15 marks out of 30 marks in the international taxation in paper number 7. These two concepts are more important in the apart from the other concepts in the transfer pricing. Now we are going to discuss those two concepts. The first one is arithmetical mean, which is very simple, and the concept of range again very simple, but the very important. I'm going to explain this concept of range in detail with an example also. So watch this video till the end. Usually, as you already know, if you don't know, you can discuss in later part of this video. The arithmetical mean is applicable when you have a less than 6 ALPs determined using the methods. Methods, when I say what are those methods? Section 92C subsection 1 methods like resale price method, cup method, and profit split method, cost plus method, and the transaction at margin method. Using these methods, if the multiple ALPs were derived, then the concept of mean is applicable only if the ALPs are less than 6. If the ALPs are 6 or more than 6, then the concept of range will come into the picture. Now we are going to see in detail of these concepts. So before going to this video, I have one request for you. Please subscribe to this channel. Please share the knowledge with others also. Your subscription may be a count for you, but it's a motivation for me. Okay. Now let's move on to the video. And the last point, the material for this lecture, respective material is available as a Google Drive link in the description of this video. Okay, you can download from there. Now, section 92C subsection 2, more than one ALP. In the practical scenarios, it is not just one ALP that we arrive. We may arrive the multiple ALPs. For example, there is a company called A Limited, and I am working for this company. My manager asked me to compute the ALP. For example, this is a software company. So I took three companies as a basis. One is Tech Mahindra, one is TCS, another one is Wipro. These three companies as a basis, I applied the CUP method, comparable uncontrolled price method. So I arrived at a ALPs of 100, 105 and 110. There are three ALPs I arrived. Now which one I need to pick up? So in these cases, what section 92C subsection 2 says that you compute take the arithmetical mean of these three. For example, here 100 plus 105 plus 110, how much it will be? 315, 315 divided by 3. Divided by 3. How much it will be? Around 105. Yes, 105. So 105 will be my ALP. 105 will be my ALP in this particular case. That's what the section 92C subsection 2 says. So in case if more than one ALP is determined, then arithmetical mean of such ALP considered as ALP. Now we'll see the point number 2. If the difference between actual transaction price and ALP is only up to 3% of actual transaction price, then actual transaction price can be considered as the ALP. So what does this point mean? I gave you an example for better understanding. For instance, if actual transaction price is 200 and ALP is 206, 3% of actual transaction price, here actual transaction price is 200, 3% needs to be applied on the actual transaction price. This comes to around 6 rupees. So for example, for this 200 actual transaction price, if the ALP after determination of ALP is 206 or below to 206, then ignore the ALP. Ignore the ALP determined. Only for a 3% of variance, you need not recalculate the income. There are some additional efforts are involved. Re-verification is required to remove all these obstacles. What they said is, if the actual transaction price and the ALP, the difference is only 3% of the actual transaction price. Here 3% you need to apply an actual transaction price, not on the ALP. 3% of actual transaction price. Then actual transaction price needs to be considered as arm's length price only. That is the point number 2 is about. This is all about section 92C subsection 2. Range concept read with rule 10 CA. So what does this mean? So before going to that methodology, I will just give you one example. If I travel from Mumbai to Pune, and I arrived in Pune in 1.5 hours, for example, you asked me what is the speed that you maintain. I told you that I maintained a speed of 100 to 120 kilometers. 100 to 120 kilometers. So that means I am telling you I didn't fall below 100. I didn't drive above 120 speed. This is what it means. So this is also a range. Similarly, in your income tax also, that the slab rates 0 to 2 lakh 50, there is no tax. 2 lakh 50 to 5 lakh, there will be 5% of tax, and so on. 5 lakh to 10 lakhs, and so on. So there also we are specifying a range like 0 to 2 lakh 50. If you fall in that, there will be a zero tax for you. So there also we are specifying a range. The range means there will be a starting point, there will be an ending point. In this, both the range, both that starting and ending point only, all the values will fall. That is technically called as a range. So how does this range is relevant to the transfer pricing? So in the real world, in the real practical world, what will happen is all the big companies, because the international transactions is mostly applicable to the MNCs, where they'll do the business with the multiple countries. So in those cases, what they will do is they will appoint Big Four for a consultation. So before going for any transaction, they will ask the Big Four consultation services. You actually measure the ALP for us. You be a consultant for us. You measure the ALP for us. Then what Big Four will do is they will use a software. They will use a software called Proves software. If you are doing articleship in Big Four and you are in a Big Six, then you may know about this one. If you are doing the tax practice, then you will know about this Proves. Proves is a database. It contains the all the benchmarking data. So what Big Four will do is they will use that particular transaction and they will put into this database, and they will use this benchmarking to analyze and arrive at a right arm's length price for the companies. This is how the practical world, the measurement of arm's length price will happen. So it is not possible for every company to sit and multiple people will sit and for every transaction measure the arm's length price by applying the different methods. They need a database. That database they rely on the Proves software. Now, if they use it, for example, a company has given reference to the Big Four and either audit firm, or they have on its own this Proves software. They measured the ALP. This ALP measured, Proves has thrown up around 10 ALPs for a particular transaction. It has thrown around 10 ALPs. 10 ALPs were derived using the software. Then in that case, which will be the correct arm's length price? In these scenarios, then this concept of range will be applicable. The concept of range will be applied to measure the right ALP. Now you will get a question saying that just around 5 minutes back, I told you that if there are any multiple ALPs, then you apply the arithmetical mean to arrive at a right ALP. Right? I told you that. Here I am saying that if you are getting a 10 ALPs, then you apply the concept of range. If there is already arithmetical mean provision is available, why this concept of range is relevant? Why this concept of range was introduced? So the law says that, the rule 10 CA says that if this range is applicable only in case if you have more than 6 or more than 6 ALPs, then in that case this concept of range is applicable. For example, if you get a ALP of 5, then in that case range is not applicable. In case of 6 or above, then only this concept of range will be applicable. Okay. Now we will see steps to arrive at ALP using this concept of range. So how do we arrive? For example, if I have 10 ALPs, let me write it down here. 10 ALPs, just give me a minute. I will just write it down here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. For example, these are my data sets. So I would say serial number or data set, whatever it is. Then now I'm writing the ALPs here. First ALP 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, and 109. These are my ALPs. This is my serial number and this is my ALP. Total there are 10 ALPs are there. Out of which I need to pick up the right ALP applicable for me using the concept of range. So what I need to do? First step. First I need to arrange the values in an ascending order from the lowest to the highest. I have already arranged it here, right? It starts with 100, which is the lowest number. It ends with 109, which is the highest number in this range. Okay, step number 1 we have completed. Next, out of the arranged ALPs, we need to arrive at a range. For this, apply 35 and 65% on the data set. On the data set, they said, not on the ALPs. This is the important point. Students will use to apply on the ALPs, that is a blender. So we need to apply this 35%, 65% on the data set, on these numbers. Okay. Now, For example, if number of data set is 8, then you apply 35 and 65 should be applied on number 8. That's why I have given within the brackets so that you don't confuse. So this number of here we have 10 ALPs. On this 10 number, we have to apply this 35% or 65%. Here you may get a doubt. Sir, what is the rationale behind applying 35% and 65% here? Here what we are trying to do is we are taking the average ALPs from the list of total 10 ALPs. That's the task that we are doing. So we want the average number, neither low nor very high. If I give you an example, for example, in a classroom there are 50 students are there. Out of the 50 students, if I ask you give me the average students, that means students who are performing averagely in the class. For that reason, you may take the exam list, out of which whoever is a failed students you will avoid. Failed students का मतलब क्या है 35%. So 35 is the board exam paper stamp marks 35. So anybody who is getting 35 you avoid. Similarly, anybody who is 65 and above, those are extraordinary. You don't want those also. You want the average list. Average list means whoever is getting the marks of 35 and 65 mid, right? Similarly, here also we are doing the same task. Out of the 10 ALPs, I need a average range of ALPs. That's why I'm applying on 10. I'm applying 35% as well as 65%. So this we need to apply. This is the step 2. So we will apply 35 and 65 here. In this particular case, if I apply 35% of these 10 ALPs, how much is 35% of 10? 3.5. 65% how much? 6.5. Now here the problem is that I didn't get neither 3 nor 4. I got exactly mid value. What we need to do in this particular case, if you get a decimal, what you need to do? If you get a decimal, then if number arrived at this whole number or not whole numbers, here this is not a whole number, next whole number should be considered for the range. Next whole number, that means in place of 3.5 you consider 4, in place of 6.5 you consider 7. Okay, now what we need to do with this 4 and 7? For this 4 we need to identify the respective ALP here. For 4 the respective ALP is 100, and for 7 the respective ALP is 106. Now my range is 103 to 106. This is my range. This is my range. Now till now what we have done, we trying to identify, we trying to eliminate the very low values, very high values. We are trying to concentrate on the average number. We got the average number now, that is 103 to 106. For example, if my actual transaction price is for example 102. If my actual transaction price is 102, that means my transaction price is not falling within the range. That means there is a need for calculation of arm's length price. For example, if my transaction price is 104, in this case there is no need to apply the arm's length price here, because 104 is falling within the range of 103 to 106. That means whatever actual transaction price is there, that will be my ALP. There is no need of further calculation. So what if, for example, now I'm moving on. What if my transaction price is 102? My actual transaction price is 102, which is not falling within the range of 103 to 106. Now I need to go to the next step. Next step is what? If, for example, if actual transaction price is not fall within the range arrived above, then median of the data set 50% shall be the ALP. 50% again should be applied on the number of ALP, not value. Whatever 35, 65, 50, you need to apply on the data set, not on the ALP numbers. Okay. Now we need to apply this 50% on the total data sets, not just 4 to 6, 4, 5, 6, not on this total data set. That means total 10 we need to apply. So on 10, if I apply a data set 10 into 50%, how much? I will get a mean of 5 here. This is the mean number, 5 I will get. For against to the 5, what is the ALP? 104 is the ALP. This is 5, 104 is the ALP. Now in this particular case, by applying the range concept, the ALP in this case is 104. 104 is the final ALP, in this case is 104. This is simply what is the concept of range here. In summary, what we are trying to do here, we have used some software or any tool. We got a multiple ALPs. For example, 10 ALPs you got. Step number 1, you need to arrange the ALPs in a ascending order, lowest to the highest. Then you need to find out the average range. For that, you will apply on the total number of data sets 35 and 65. You will get a data range. If your actual transaction price, associated enterprise actual transaction price given in the question is fall within the range, then you need not go further. Then that with whatever transaction price is there, that is the ALP. What if the actual transaction price is not fall within the range, then we need to go further to the next step. Next step is what? Take the total data set, that is 10, apply 50% of it. That is coming to the 5 here. That is coming to the 5 here. Against to the 5 data set, what is the ALP? ALP here is 104. That means the ALP for this transaction is 104. This is what about the concept of range. I'm explaining little slower here because this is very important concept for the exam. When I'm explaining this, I told you one thing, that if you are applying percentage of 35, 65, 50, if you get a decimals, if you get a decimals like 3.5, 3.2 something, you need to go to the next whole number. What if you get exactly whole number only? What if you get a 7, 8, 9? For example, if you have a 20 ALPs in the list, 20 ALPs. In that case, if you apply 35% on this 20, what is the number that you will get is 7. 7 is a whole number, right? 7 is a whole number. So for against to the 7, whatever ALP exists, you cannot directly take that number. In case of if you get a whole number, then you need to do a average. Average of 7 plus 8. So for example, under 7, there is a ALP of 100. Under 8, there is a ALP of 102. Then in this particular case, if you get a 7 by applying 35%, 100 plus 102 by 2. This is 101. This is 101. Similarly, for 65% also, if you get a whole number after applying 65% on 20 ALPs, then in that case, the whole number and the next whole number. If you get, for example, 13, 13 is the data set data set number that you get after applying 65%. 13 value ALP value and 14 ALP value you need to do a average. This is simple average that you need to do if you get a whole number. Now in this particular case, for example, instead of 101, you got 101.5, 101.50 here. As I said about data sets where you need to go to the next whole number, in case of you get a decimal here, will that be applicable to the ALP also? Will that rule is applicable to ALP also? No. You can take the exact the same amount, 101.5. If you get a decimal after applying 65%, that decimal only you need to take. You need not do the 101.5 to next whole number 102. You need not do that for ALP. So simple rule is that whenever you are applying for on the data set, if you get a decimal, data set means numbers, if you get a decimal, then you need to go to the next whole number. Whenever you are applying the this average formula on the ALPs, then you can take the exact number. You need not do the next whole number wala thing. Okay. Before going to the example that I described below, so I want to convey one more thing. In the concept of range is not applicable in case of a multi-year data in case of a cup method. For example, if an entity is using the to find out the arm's length price, they are using the comparable uncontrolled price method, that is a cup method, if they are using it. If in the question, if you get a multi-year data set like 2020, 21, 21, 22, 22, 23, this is the data set and they are following the cup method, and you find out the ALP using the range concept. In that concept, you should ignore the previous year's data that was mentioned here. If you see point number C, cup method is not applicable in case of a multi-year data. We are going to solve this example also. This example that I have described table below is exactly on this point only. So we will discuss this further. Excel Limited is an Indian company and it has a subsidiary YANC in Netherlands. It purchased raw material from YANC. It purchased the raw material from YANC, its subsidiary, and the per unit cost is 450 per unit. This is happened in previous year 2020 to 23. 450 per unit. Same material from other unrelated party during the current year also Excel Limited has purchased. So for that the prices as well as the ALP they have already given you in the below table. They have given you in the below table but 3 years data, last 3 years data. A Limited, B Limited, C Limited, E Limited, all these are unrelated parties to Excel Limited. So they purchase the same material from these people also. Okay, that has given in the table. Now we need to calculate the arm's length price in this particular case. The concept table looks very clumsy and but it is getting the answer from this question is very simple. The first step that we need to do is any question relating to range. First step that you need to do is what are the number of ALPs? Number of ALPs we need to count. Here the number of ALPs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This need not be counted. This is there because there is no transaction. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So there are total 10 ALPs are there. For 10 ALPs, concept of range is applicable. What if the number comes to 5 or 4, then this concept of range is not applicable. You need to go with simple arithmetical mean for this as a solution for this problem. So first step it is yes, this concept of range is applicable. What is the next step? Just now before starting this example, I told you one thing, that comparable uncontrolled price method is not applicable for the multi-year data. So we have discussed that, right? So in this case, they identified the most appropriate method is cup method in this particular example. So under the cup method, whatever the previous year data, 2020, 21, 21, 22 are need not be considered. That means these two columns gone. What if it is not a cup method, it is a resale price method or transaction net margin method? In that case, this is applicable. Multi-year data we can use, but for this particular cup method, multi-year data should not be used. So these both are striked off. Now we have this raw material suppliers and 2020 to 23 ALPs here. Now we'll see the answer here. The range concept is applicable here as the number of ALPs are 6. We have seen this. As a cup method is not appropriate, not applicable in case of previous year data. So these both are striked off. Now we will see the go into the each and every step how the ALP is arrived. What is the first step in the concept of range? Arrange the ALPs in an ascending order. That means lowest to the highest. So first I have arranged that here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and F limited, H limited. The lowest here is 270 and the highest here is 510. So from lowest to the highest, I arranged the this ALPs. That is step number 1. What is step number 2? Applying the 35% and 65% here. Out of this 9 data set, on 9 we need to apply 35%. And similarly, on 9 we need to apply 65%. In this, we are restricting our sample to the average number. Our ALPs to the average number. We want the average ALPs here. So first number we got 3.15. 3.15 is not whole number. So we need to go to the next whole number. 3.15, the next whole number is 4. Similarly, 5.85 is a decimal number. Next whole number is 6. Now we need to identify the ALPs against these 4 and 6. That will be my range. Here 4, here 6. My range of ALP is 360 to 392. This is my range. 360 to 392. This is my range. What is the next step? We need to compare this range with the actual transaction price. What is the actual transaction price they have given? 450. 450 per unit. So 450 is my actual transaction price. Sorry. 450 is my actual transaction price. This is not falling under this range. This 450 is not falling under this range. Now we have to move ahead to the next step. What if it is falling under this range only? Then that means we can stop this further. We need not go to the further next step, and we can say that whatever the transaction price is there, that is the ALP. That's the end of the matter. But in this case, it is not falling into the range. We are going to the next step. What is the last step in this? We need to take the total data set. We need to take the total data set and apply 50% on it. 50% on it. On 9 are the total number of data sets. We applied 50% on it. Then we got a 4.5. Again, this 4.5 is not a whole number. We need to go to the next number, that is 5. Finally, the data set serial number 5 having a ALP of 390 is my arm's length price for this transaction. Now 390 is the arm's length price for this transaction. What is the actual transaction price that which company it is? X Limited. X Limited Indian company has paid to the YINC is 450. Is 450 per unit. That means 390, 450 minus 390, 60 per unit. 60 per unit is sitting in the additionally sitting in the P&L under the purchases of X Limited P&L. So this needs to be added back to the income of the X Limited. So 60 per unit into total number of units it has purchased. That amount needs to be added back to the income of the X Limited. This is what the simple question on the concept of range.